A lot of times people say, hey, Brian, how did you get started in photography, or how long have you been in photography? And of course, the question about how long, that number changes, of course. Now it's 10 years, but as to how I got started, that's a very interesting story because I would say that approximately, 10 years ago today is like when I really got that urge to really start pursuing photography. So in 2009, around March, early March in 2009, I had an opportunity to travel abroad. And so I was in college at the time, and I took a trip. Me and some classmates, we took a trip and we went to Paris and London. And not to draw the story out too long, but the day that I was leaving to go to on my trip, it was an afternoon flight, pretty long flight, but sometimes I can be really guilty of, kind of last minute, and I've been working on that. But that morning is when I packed. So that's just me. So that morning I packed my stuff and I finally got everything together, and I had about a couple of hours before I needed to go to the airport. So I'm sitting on my bed, and for some reason I just got this urge to go get a camera. Like it's the weirdest thing because I had some extra money, of course, if I can just go think, hey, I'm gonna go get a camera. But I got this urge to just go get a camera. This was the first time I was going outside of the country, other than Canada. No offense to Canada, but when you're from Michigan, and especially Detroit, you don't really count Canada as another country because it's like right across the street. But anyway, my first time really traveling abroad, so I said I want to get another camera. I just hopped up and I went to Best Buy. At the time, I was living directly across the street from a Best Buy. Went to Best Buy, quickly ran up and down the aisles. I picked out a camera that I thought was going to be pretty nice, and I got it. That first camera, it was a point and shoot, a Canon. It cost me like $300, which was at that time, that was kind of a lot of money for a point and shoot. But I got it. And that was it. I just went and bought the camera. But nevertheless, as I went on the trip, I saw so much. I experienced so much. And I used this opportunity to just capture everything. When you take a trip, when you travel abroad, especially at that point in my life, I didn't know if I would ever take another trip like that again. I know I wanted to, but I wanted to capture everything. And that's what I did. I wanted to capture every moment, everything I saw, everything I experienced, and I did that myself as well as the other classmates that I went on a trip with. And it's funny because when you're in a moment like that, you just capture the moment. I didn't know any technical aspects of photography. I didn't know anything about composition. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. I just know I wanted to capture the moment, and that's what I did. So fast forward, I come back from the trip, and actually I didn't even look at the pictures right away, to be honest with you. I just kind of, stored them somewhere, made sure they were safe. They're digital, so I'm like, they're safe. And when I did look at them, I looked at them, and some of them were like really good, some of them were like, okay. But when I looked at the pictures, only thing I was thinking about was just, wow, that was a moment. Wow, that was a time. Later on that summer, my aunt called and she asked me if I wanted to go on this little boat tour that they had downriver, which is actually in Wyandotte, Michigan. It was a boat tour called the Diamond Jack, and it goes up, I think, Lake Michigan or something like that. And I said, sure. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't working. And we went on this boat tour. And as we were on this boat tour, there was these two boats. And those of us that are from Michigan, from Detroit, especially from Detroit, we all know about the Bobolo boat. Okay, very, very historic for Detroiters. And so actually, both of the boats that were used for Bobolo Island, which used to be an amusement park in Detroit years ago, both boats were docked in Ecorse, Michigan at the time. What was so interesting about that was, first of all, most people did not know that there were actually two boats. Okay, there was the St. Clair and the other one, I can't remember, but it'll flash across the screen in a minute. So, nevertheless, I got a picture of the two boats. Okay, so one boat was in front of the other, and the significance of it was, at the moment, one of the boats was being renovated. Okay, and I believe it was the St. Clair that was being renovated. You knew it was because it had fresh paint. You actually saw like ladders, and where you could tell it was workers on that boat, and they were doing stuff on the boat, and it looked pretty nice. But then the other boat that was behind it, these boats look identical. Okay, the only thing was the second boat, it was kind of worn. They had like a tarp that was obviously on it at some point. The tarp was ripped, it was worn, the boat was rusted, the boat was in really bad shape. But I got a picture of both boats. I got them together, I got them separate. Now, the significance of the Boblo boat for my story is, when I went back to college for the next semester, they had a thing in the art department. They called it Art Doesn't Take a Vacation, okay? And it was something where they encouraged the art students to continue working on art throughout the summer. And then they had like a little art show for the students, and they can put up whatever they did over the summer. Nevertheless, I was in the process of becoming an art minor at the time. I didn't even know it, but I was in the process. One of these students, they asked me, they said, hey, you should put something in the art show. And I didn't really know what to put in there. I said, well, what should I put? And they said, I don't know, you went on that trip to Paris earlier this year, right? I was like, yeah. They said, well, put up a picture or something. I'm like, okay. And I went home, and now I have to look through all my pictures, and I'm looking through all my pictures, and it was two pictures in particular that I put into the art show. One was a picture of the Eiffel Tower. It was a pretty cool picture, at least I thought it was. And I wanted something different, okay? So when I went back to those Bobolo boat pictures, it was something about those pictures that really stood out to me. So I didn't really, for whatever reason, the boat that was being renovated, it just didn't speak to me. But the other one, it just had more of a story to it. So my girlfriend at the time, we were at my apartment, and we were talking, and I asked her, I said, which one of these pictures of the Bobolo boat should I put up? And she said, this one, the one with the bad looking one. And I was like, okay. So I was like, what should I do with it? And she said, well, what can you do? So I'm editing, and I'm showing her different things. Personally, I like the one that was in color more. But she actually was like, you should do the black and white one. And I'm like, really? And so, just a little lesson, sometimes you do gotta listen. So I chose the one that was black and white. So I put the two pictures in the art show. Craziest thing, but everyone who saw the pictures, they just went like crazy over them. We had a thing where we could put up like sticky notes and write something next to the pictures on the wall for the other students in their artwork. And I had all kind of like little notes, and like it was amazing because I had never really thought about taking photography serious. It was just, I like taking pictures. And I got so much really good feedback on both of the pictures. And in fact, when the show was over, I was taking my pictures down, and my photography instructor at the time, Nicole Parker, she actually came up to me and said, hey, you ever thought about selling one of your pictures? I said, yeah, sure. And I didn't know anything about pricing or anything like that, but Nicole Parker was actually the first person to buy my artwork. And I remember that day when I sold the pictures to her, because I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this money in my hand. And I'm like, wow, like I just made money, like actual cash money for selling photography. I'm like, wait a minute, this could work. When you are a broke college student, any source of money that you get, it pays off. And from that moment, I said, let's see how much more of this I could do. And I did.